The step sequencer view in Cakewalk by Bandlab makes it easy to compose patterns using a grid and is ideally suited for drum programming. And in this video, we're going to take a look into it. This video is an expansion of the previous video in which we discussed how to program drums in Cakewalk. So we will only be looking into the step sequencer and that too in detail. Alright, let's get into this video. To use different samples in the step sequencer view, we are going to use the plugin Sitala. In the previous video, we made a track template with all the necessary MIDI and audio routing so that loading the plugin will be much easier and faster. So I'm going to right click here, then hover over Insert from Track Template and select Sitala. So the plugin is loaded now, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to load different samples into these pads. And here are those samples. Alright, now let's get into the step sequencer. We can bring up the step sequencer view by right-clicking on the track and then going into View, then selecting Step Sequencer. Or we can use the shortcut Alt+4 while the track is selected. Or we can bring it directly from the plugin itself by clicking on this button here. By default, it's set to Step Sequencer. See, it's here. If we want to change it, all we have to do is long press, and the view that we want to open by clicking on the button can be selected here. Alright? Okay, my second click created one more step sequencer clip. I'm going to close that. So we have this step sequencer view here, and we can see the names on these pads in these rows. Just so you know, this is the C note in the third octave, this is C sharp, this is D, D sharp, E, and so on, which you can see here: C3, C sharp 3, D3, D sharp 3, and so on. There is nothing in here, so there won't be any voice coming from these rows. A new step sequencer clip will be created where the playhead is when we enable one of these nodes. If the playhead is here, then that's where the clip will be generated. Don't worry, we can move it around. Let's double click it to open the step sequencer again. I'm gonna make it full screen and remove this. So these are MIDI nodes that can be enabled and disabled. To enable a node, we left click them. To disable a node, we right click on them. By left clicking and dragging, we can enable multiple nodes in the same row. We can also disable multiple nodes by right clicking and dragging. In both these cases, if we hold down the Alt key, we won't be constrained to a single row. It doesn't matter where we laid down the first node, we can drag through any and all of these horizontal rows. Here is some additional info. This is Vital Synthesizer, in which I have designed a sound with which it will be easy to understand what I'm going to show now. I'm going to enable a bunch of nodes here. And if I hit play, we can hear all those individual nodes. But if I hold down Ctrl key and drag through them, they become a single merged node. That's it. We can mute a row if we want to. We can mute multiple rows. We can also solo rows. But if we want to solo multiple rows, we have to hold down Ctrl while enabling solo for the other row. One single click and the other ones will be disabled. To the left, these numbers determine which node the row is associated with. For instance, 36 is for C, 37 is for C sharp, 38 is for D, and so on. If I change this to 37, then it's the same as the row below it. For your info, we can also type in the number if we want to. If we right click on the name of the row, we get the options for that particular row. First it's Insert Row, and it added an additional row. This is the same as the row that we right clicked. It happened because there is already the next row in order here. If we do the same thing on a row which does not have the next row above it, the next row will be added. This button does the same thing as Insert Row. Now right click and here is the next option, which is Delete Row. This button does the same thing as delete. Let's delete this one also. Moving on to the next options, we can cut row steps and paste it onto another row. We can also use the obvious shortcut Ctrl+X to cut after selecting the row. It's selected now, and select the row in which we want to paste it and then hit Ctrl+V. We can also copy row steps from one row and paste them in another. Just like before, Ctrl+C also works. Now the next option, which is Shift Steps Forward, will move the nodes to the right by one step. The shortcut for this is Alt right arrow. Of course, the row in which we want to apply that should be selected like this. And the next option does the opposite of it. It moves it to the left, and the shortcut is Alt plus left arrow. Moving on, adjust velocity multiplier. Well, we'll discuss about that in a few moments. Let's skip it for now. Rename row. Alright, let's rename it kick. While we're on it, I'm going to rename the other rows as well. Oh, and the shortcut is F2. The next option is to fill every one of these steps. If it's 2, then it fills every second step. If it's 3, then every third step, and so on. Now the shortcut to achieve this is Ctrl and the number. Let's say we want to fill every second node in this row, then we select this row here and then hit Ctrl plus 2. If it's the fourth nodes in the row, then we hit Ctrl 4. But here's the twist with this shortcut. If we already have a node selected like this one, and then we use this shortcut, only the nodes coming after this node will be considered, like in this case. So this way, we can easily achieve a common EDM beat by laying down the hi-hat here and then enabling every fourth node. Now listen to this. Cool, right? And the last thing on rows is that we can move around a row by clicking on this handle here and dragging it around. But remember, the nodes are still the same because the number will not change. Alright? Now I'm going to minimize this clip by hitting D so that we can see the clips pane where this step sequencer clip is. We will get a much better view of the MIDI information inside a clip if we hit Ctrl F. Now a step sequencer clip is a groove clip, which means we can click and drag its edges to loop it. Let's say we want a variation in here. In such a case, we have to split the clip to make the change. But still, this clip is connected to the other iterations, which means any change we make in this clip is going to affect the other clips. So we are going to right click on this clip and then unlink step sequencer clips. Now there is no connection between this one and the other 3 iterations. They are completely different. I'm going to open this clip by double clicking. We are seeing this step sequencer and I'm going to unmute this one. So you will hear these hats only in this clip. Alright, now this might be the best time to discuss what's on the top of the step sequencer interface. In this toolbar, first we have 2 parameters that decides the pattern length. The first one among that is beats per pattern. Right now it's 4, which means 1, 2, 3, 4. If I increase it to 8, then it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We get a total of 8 beats. I usually work with 8, but I am switching it back to 4 for the time being. Then we have steps per beat, which is like a resolution of a beat. By default, it is 4, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to double click on this number and then type 8 and hit enter. Now we have 8 steps per beat. I'm going to add some more hi-hats in there. Now listen to this. I'm going to undo that. Now here's the thing, typing in a number and using these arrows have different effects, unlike beats which will behave the same way. So if I use this up arrow, the additional step was added by the end of the beat. If I use it again, it goes like this. Now I'm going to go back to 4 and type in a different number. Instead of using 8, which is a perfect double of 4, let's use 6. Then it's going to behave in a totally different way. See? Keep that in mind while working. And also, if you change this and change it back, it will not bring back what we had before. Be a little bit aware of that. Next, we have fit to quarters, which if enabled, will force the pattern duration to fit the number of quarter notes specified here. Right now, it's 4 quarter notes, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. So this clip is fit into 4 quarter notes. If I reduce this to 3, then 1, 2, 3. If I reduce it further, 1, 2. That was quite fast. Let's disable that and talk about how it will affect this clip, which is already iterated 2 times. I'm going to enable it and increase it to 5. So now it changes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, I'm going to turn it off now. Then the next one is entry mode. If it's mono, then we can only enable one note in a single column. Like if I add 1 here, this is going to get disabled. So we usually have it in poly, where we can have multiple notes in a single column. The next one is the play button inside the step sequencer interface, which will only play the content of the clip in loop. The shortcut is Ctrl-Shift Spacebar. The next one is for step recording, which we are going to skip now because everything related to recording in Cakewalk will be discussed in a future video. And lastly, this is position indicator, which shows the beat and the step count. You'll be able to understand that if I slow down the tempo. Alright, now let's see what these step sequencer menu options are. This row here gives the same options we get when we right-click on an individual row. Now in the pattern, we have options to save a pattern and then load the saved patterns and clear this pattern here. And finally in the options, we're going to skip this first option because it's part of recording. And then here we have preserve pattern for step sizes. This is quite important. If we don't have this enabled, then see what happens if I change the steps to 8. It's not keeping it in time. Back to 4. And with that option enabled, see, it kept the time interval. Then we have trigger not on click, which we obviously need, otherwise we won't be able to hear the notes that we are clicking on. And then finally set default velocity for steps. We are going to skip this for now, but we'll come back to this when it will be easier to understand. By now you must have figured out that the step sequencer view is pretty good to make EDM beats or repetitive beats that has a looping nature. But that's not the only thing that the step sequencer can be used for. I'm going to bring up the Sitala plugin so that we can work with a different kind of drum kit that's not actually an EDM type. But before that, let me show you how to save all these samples loaded into these pads as a kit. We click on this menu here and then we can save a kit. Likewise, I have already saved the kit from the previous video and named it our beat. So I'm going to bring that up. Change kit. Yep. Cool. And I'm going to delete these clips too. And we are going to work in a new step sequencer clip. Let's slow down the tempo. I'm going with 90 and then I'm going to recreate the drum beat from the last video. Now let me show you how we can humanize this. I'm going to click on this arrow here, which is going to reveal some more controls and the controller pane for this particular row. By default, what we see in the controller pane is velocity, which dictates how hard a key is pressed. Every node will have a velocity value associated with it, and it's in the options menu, set default velocity for steps, that we can decide the default value of velocity. Right now it is 100, that is this 100. The maximum value is 127, so if I change it here, any new node will have a velocity value of 127. I'm fine with having 100. Also, this is a global setting. Now let's see how the hat sounds with different velocity values. If we hold down shift while clicking and dragging, we can draw a straight line like this. Also, we can hold down shift while clicking and dragging up or down on the node to change the velocity value without revealing the controller pane. We can also hold down shift key and then drag through the row to manipulate the velocity of the nodes. We can also see the level of velocity on these nodes itself. If we hold on control, then double click on the node, we can enter the value of velocity. I'm going to change it in a way a drummer would play. Now let's see what these controls are. So first one is an offset for velocity. At 0, we are hearing the velocity as they should be, but if we decrease it, then this velocity will be decreased by this value, which is -82. It's almost quiet. Now if we increase this one to, let's say, 80, then the value here, that is 96, 32, and these values will get added by 80. So let's keep it at normal. So with this knob, a particular value gets added to all of these velocity. There won't be much of a relation between them. But if we right click here and then click on this adjust velocity multiplier, this value will be multiplied with the velocity value here. The default value is 1. If you want to compress the velocity of every node in this row, then we go below 1, that is, let's say 0.5. Then the velocity of all of these nodes will be half of what we are seeing here. And if you want to expand them, we use a value that is greater than 1. Since it's multiplication, the relationship between the velocity lines will remain the same, unlike using the velocity offset knob. Now the next knob is the duration knob. To demonstrate that, I'm going to reduce this step sequencer clip down and hide the control bar and expand this MIDI clip to fit the screen. Now see how it changes when I turn the duration knob. See how it affected the notes for the hats? With a really short duration, it will be easy to understand the next knob, which is swing. Swing is a good characteristic to imitate a real drummer. I'm gonna lay down all the notes in the row for hat so that we can understand what this swing knob does to the MIDI of hat. I'm going to undo that and set the swing value to around 66. It's working on this note, and that's what I want. We can also offset the time, making it a little bit early or dragging it by a bit. Now, the next knob is flam, which will be better to be shown using a snare sound. So I'm going to change this row to 38. To enable a flam on a cell, we have to double click on that cell. So we have added the flam knot, and if I reduce the duration, we can see that it's actually two notes, one grace note and one primary note. See what happens when I reduce the flam? It's much closer. Now if I increase it, it's much farther apart. So that's what this knob is for. I'm gonna change this back to normal. Here's a scenario. I want to offset these snares a little bit so that the rhythm is a little bit bouncy. I can click this button revealing the controls and then increase the time offset to make it lag by a bit. But here's the thing, I'm using two different samples as a layered snare sound. So this is going to sound like it's a flam. And that is not what I want. I want to change them together. To do that, we have to select these two rows. This is the button to select a row. If we hold down Ctrl and select another row, then that row will be added to the selection. If you are holding down Shift, then all the rows in between will get selected. Or we can just click and drag on the rows that we want to select. Right now these two rows are selected, so increasing the time offset will affect them both. Yep, there is that bounce. Cool. I'm going to double the length of this pattern so that it will be easier to understand this step editor parameter. So by default, the step editor parameter is velocity, and that's what we are seeing here. If we click here, we can see other parameters like here is time offset, which can be used to offset the notes individually. And this is already on top of the time offset knob. The normal is 0. We can go to minus direction or positive direction. The next option is step play probability. What we are seeing here is 100% probability. That is, these notes will be played no matter what. But now I'm gonna add a note and reduce the probability, let's say 50%. Then this note might get missed sometimes. Let's make it pretty low. This way we will get slightly different patterns during every iteration, or replicate a drummer who is sometimes missing some notes. The next set of parameters are the MIDI CC. These are the same continuous controllers that we discussed in the piano roll video, which is going to pop up here right now. Anyway, what we are seeing here are the most useful ones when handling percussion. And it will only work if the plugin actually has some parameters that will respond to these default MIDI CC. But Sitala doesn't have that. So I'm gonna open it to look for parameters that we can modulate. Let's say we want to modulate the span of the 4th pad. Then what we are going to do is click here and then click on this new value type. Here in this value, when the type selected here is control, we can see the other CC controls. But what we are interested in are this NRPN. Now among the value, we need to look for the parameters that start with 4, which are the parameters connected to the 4th pad, and among that, we're going to choose pan. Okay. Now if we edit this controller pane, we are editing pan of the 4th pad. I'm going to draw a straight line. Now see how the pan knob goes from one side to the other. Now let's try some random values. We can see these NRPN or MIDI CC as straight lines in the MIDI clip itself. In order to remove the NRPN or MIDI from this list, we have to erase the lines by right-clicking them. So I'm going to right-click and drag. And the last thing we have to discuss is this output port, which I will explain using the project that we are actually developing through this tutorial series. So this is the project, and what we are interested is inside this SI drum kit folder. Here we have 5 tracks or 5 instances of the same instrument plugin because that instrument has only one single output, which will not be favorable during the mixing phase. We have all the drums here, but only one track output. So we made it in a way that the first track holds only the MIDI data for the kick drum. Then the second track is holding the MIDI of only the snare drum, and so on. So now I'm going to bring all these MIDI clips into one single track. They are still different MIDI clips, so I'm going to select all of it like this and then right click and click bounce to clips. Now I'm going to open this clip so that you can see that it actually is a normal MIDI clip which can be opened in the piano roll. Now I'm going to right click again and then select convert MIDI clips to step sequencer. Now the MIDI notes in this clip will fit in a resolution of 1/16, so this is fine. We will not lose any MIDI data. And also I'm going to preserve original timing. Okay, now this clip is a step sequencer clip, which you can see here. Just so you know, we can also hit this drop down and select whatever view we want to convert the clip into. However, I wouldn't recommend converting a MIDI clip into a step sequencer clip from this list because it will not show the window in which we selected the resolution, and will use the resolution and the other setting which was used for the previous conversion. Alright, so now let me get back to the step sequencer clip. As you guessed, the output of this clip is only coming through the track which I designated for snare. And that is what we are going to fix here. But before that, I'm going to rename all these rows so that it will be easier to understand. Alright, now I'm going to make this step sequencer clip smaller so that we can see what's happening here. And then select the row for kick and then double click on this raw output port. Here you can see that the drum kit 2 is selected, which is actually this snare track. And the above one is this SI drum kit 1. So now this MIDI is being directed to this track. This way I'm going to set the other rows. So these 2 rows for snare are already routed to the right track, which is this one. Let's see hi-hats. I'm going to select both of them, double click and select the third one here. Now let's have a listen. Yep, the MIDI is getting directed to the right track. This way I'm going to set the other 2 remaining rows as well. So now, see how the audio is coming through these tracks. Perfect. The only problem here will be that if we mute this track, then the others will get muted. So to fix that, I'm going to bring this MIDI all the way down and it's going to create a MIDI track. So I'm going to rename it SI MIDI. Now it's not a problem. What we actually did here is create a drum map, which can be a video of its own, and it's not something that a beginner would actually always need. That's why I'm not going into detail on that now. And that's it for this video. Leave a like if you found it useful. In the next video, we are going to mix this project and see what the console view of Cakewalk is, and also continue developing this project. With that, I'm AEDK, and I'll catch you in the next video.